Hi everybody, Carissa here with Inky Fairy Designs as part of the Blitzy creative team today, and I'm going to be creating some mixed media in an art journal that I have using some of the Faber-Castell Gelatos pastels collection, and then also some Pitt artist pens also by Faber-Castell and gesso, and then also I'll be using one of the stamps in this Ranger stamp set by Dina Wakely. I just love the girls in the stamp, and super cool. So you can see I'm working in an old book, and every time when I'm working in an old book, I want to kind of prime my pages or prep my pages with some gesso. So I'm using the gesso by Faber-Castell. You can use any type of gesso that you have, and just kind of apply a light layer because I still want to see the book text behind. I love working in this old book because that book text gives me an automatic background to start on, and I don't feel like I have this blank canvas staring at me, and I don't know, I have like an easier time starting to build off of the page. So I ended up adding 2 layers, and I dried them with my heat tool in between, so you can see here how those 2 layers look, and you can still see that book text. So now I'm going to go in and I'm using some of the colors from the Faber-Castell Pastels collection. So I have that full set, and the colors, I will have all the colors listed in my blog post as well as the YouTube description. But you can see they're very, very pretty, soft, beautiful colors. I sprayed some water after I had applied them, and then I tilted my book up and kind of tapped it on my desk and to create some dripping. And I just think it's such a fun technique to just kind of scribble the gelatos directly onto your page and then spray it with some water because they are water-based and you want to activate that pigment. And it just creates, you can like really spray it on there, and it'll pull up, and then you can tilt your page and create some really pretty drippage effects. So I'm just going in after that layer dried. I did go in with my heat tool because I like to work all at once if I possibly can. And so I'll go in with my heat tool in between the layers and dry them up. And now I'm going in and just kind of darkening and brightening up those colors, putting the same color gelato right on top of the areas. And then I'll take a baby wipe and kind of wipe my fingers, and with that moisture I'll move around the color on the page, and then I'll add some more water from my spray bottle and let it drip some more onto my page. So just getting some different angles of drippage on my page. So really cool technique to use with gelatos is kind of just scribbling, spraying, and letting it drip. So one thing I wanted to show you as well, when I'm working in my book journal, I will glue 2 or 3 pages together before and after the page that I'm working on, and I'm just using the gel medium from Faber-Castell to do that. And so you'll see I coat both sides of the page, and then I'll flip it over and take a brayer and just get, make sure that they are nicely adhered, and then I have a thicker page and a thicker kind of canvas to work on. So now I'm going to add some texture with stamps, and I'm using the Faber-Castell Big Pitt pens. These are India ink, so they are permanent once dry. Actually, the gelatos are as well. So I love using these big brush pens to stamp with because you can just kind of, you can see I work the color with the broad side of that brush onto the entire stamp, and then I just stamp it along my page, and I can get several images from just one go through with my pen, so I can stamp it 2 or 3 times sometimes depending on how much ink I got on there. So you can see I usually do at least 2 times, and then I'll add some more color and I'll use that stamp and stamp it again on other areas of my page. So again, I'll take my heat tool and I will heat set that to make sure that it's dry before I move on. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some golden titanium white, and I'm going to mix it with some of the gelato, and it's going to give a really, really pale tint because the gelato is already such a light color. But it gives a light tint, and you can do this with any color gelato. Probably works best with some of the brighter colors if you really want to kind of mix the colors with some acrylic paint, or you can mix it with gesso as well. So you can see I just kind of smushed some of the gelato onto my mat, and then I took my craft knife and mixed it into the acrylic paint, and then I'm just taking that and scraping it along my page because I wanted to give a base for some of the stamping and also for some journaling that I wanted to do later. So to darken up that color, I'm using the same gelato and I'm just rubbing it in to the paint after I dried it with a heat tool again. And I'm just kind of going along the edges of the areas of that paint and kind of rubbing it in so it kind of fades from the outside to the inside. So you can see it really blends nicely into the paint, and I'm taking a baby wipe and kind of wiping up some of the excess in the middle because that's where I want to do my stamping and my journaling. So now I'm going to take another stencil, and this is the Dylusions Dotted Flowers 9x12 stencil, and I'm just adding some more of the white acrylic paint, and with a makeup brush, just kind of sponging it through the dots area on the stencil randomly on my page. So I'm kind of going in a pattern on the outside edges and just bringing those dots down into the page. I like using a makeup sponge or some type of sponge applicator through my stencils because it gives me more control, and I have less paint seeping through underneath the stencil. So just adding a bit more texture, and now I'm going to line up my stamps. So I'm taking one of the stamps from that stamp set, which is from the Dina Wakely Media Stamps by Ranger, and this one is called Positive Women. I really like the girls on this one, and they each have like a sentiment with it, and I stamped it with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Now I'm going to add some journaling in my own handwriting on the other side of the page. So you can see that's why I wanted to add that white paint so that I had more of a base over that text, the book text. And I just wrote a quote that I found on Pinterest, and it says, "I am just starting to be more me than I have ever been." I really liked that sentiment, along with the quote that is on the girl that says, "You have to make room for growth." So two of those just really spoke to me and kind of completed this page for what I was kind of going for in this art journal page. Now I'm just taking a woody Stabilo 3-in-1 pencil and going around some of the dots, not all of them. And these Stabilo pencils are I think they're a watercolor, and so they activate with water when I go around it with a water brush, and it just activates that pigment like a watercolor. And the reason I think it's a watercolor is because when I've used it before, it will reactivate if I go over that area again with any type of wet media. So I kind of try to do that towards the end of my page. And you could try sealing it, I think, with some workable fixative, but I haven't tried that yet. So not sure if that would work in sealing it, so you could add more wet medium on top. But it's all about layers for me, so I don't mind. And like I said, I'm getting towards the end of this page anyway, so that's why I'm going around with that right now. Just adding some depth to some of those circles from the stencil. And I can take some of that because it kind of got in the middle of the circle. I didn't want it there. And so I'm taking a baby wipe and just cleaning up the inside of some of those circles. I'm also going to take that same Stabilo pencil and go around the stamp and kind of give her some shading and have her pop out from the page. So I'm just adding kind of a shadow around her, and then I'll take my water brush again, and you can see how that ink or that pigment just gets activated, and I love just the looseness of it and how it kind of, I can fade it out into the background and it kind of just moves around like a watercolor, so I can give a very soft shade around the stamp. So I'm really enjoying working with that medium. The last thing that I'm going to do to the stamp is I decided rather than leave her plain that I'm going to bring some color in, and it'll also tie in the colors that I used in the background. So I'm using some of the Gelatos, and I am picking up the pigment with my water brush, and I am adding it just in certain areas on the image. I'm not going and doing a whole coloring on her. I just added some of that blue to her hair. I gave her some rosy cheeks, and I will come in and color up her lips, and then I'll also add some of the, I'm not sure what color it is, but the tan on her dress, and then also some of the peach on her face and neck, so on her skin. So you can see how I'm holding the gelato and I'm just picking it up directly from the gelato with my water brush, and that activates that pigment and I'm able to use it as a watercolor to add color to my stamp. So it's a really cool technique to use. You can use the gelatos for straight watercoloring like this. You could apply it onto your craft mat or acrylic block to create a palette to pick up the paint and add it to your stamps or your drawings or any surface that you're working on. So you can see that for this I just took it directly from the gelato and added it to my page. So I really liked how I was able to give her some color and bring her to life, because that's something that I love doing. But I kept the background showing through, so you can see really all of the texture coming through the image. Really, really pretty. So the last thing that I'm going to do, I'm almost done with my page. I'm going to take some of the, I think it's the Bombay India ink, and in black. And I'm just going to use the dropper, and I covered up my stamp because I didn't want to accidentally drop some ink onto her. So I just used some paper and washi tape to create a mask over her. And I'm just dropping drops from probably, I don't know, about 12 inches above my page to get some nice splatters. And then I'm going to pick up my page, and to go along with the theme of the background, I'm going to add some drips with that ink, and my page is done. So I really hope you enjoyed seeing how you can use gelatos in your art journals to build backgrounds and add color to your stamped images. Here are some close-ups of my finished page. For more inspiration using the awesome products that Blitzy carries, be sure to follow the entire Blitzy Creative team on Facebook and blitzy.com. Thanks for watching.